Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin bubble news channel. I don't think that will happen. If I had to make a guess, that's not what I would expect to happen. I think that enough new investors will come in to make up for it, but investors should be aware that the few weeks before the start will be very interesting, with a lot of changes. In the long run, $15 billion will be put into these ETFs, which will make them reach new all-time highs. That seems like it will happen quickly. You need to keep the long story separate from the short one. Matt Hougan, CIO of Bitwise and a famous media site called X, told us that we would find Ethereum ETFs and the underlying coin in a very bullish way. Matt thinks that Ethereum exchange trade goods will bring in $15 billion in net flow in the first 18 months after they can trade after getting a license from the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Based on market capitalization, Matt thinks buyers will put about the same amount of money into Bitcoin and Ethereum ETPs. Matt says that Ethereum was worth 20% and Bitcoin was worth 74% of their market value. $56 billion was put into spot Bitcoin ETPs by investors. By 2025, this should be close to $100 billion thanks to Morgan Stanley approved ETFs. Matt says that spot Ethereum ETPs need $35 billion in EA to be on par with Bitcoin ETFs, but that this may not happen because of problems. Grayscale Ethereum Trust will change $1 billion if they are allowed to. Matt thinks that ETF IHA will be $25 billion from $35 billion. The amount is lowered after Matt thinks about the sizes of Bitcoin and ETFs in Europe and Canada. Europe and Canada have 22% and 23% of the market, which is less than Matt's estimate of 26%. Matt says in a different post that this means that net flows are now expected to be $18 billion instead of $25 billion. $10 billion could be stuck in the carry trade, in which big buyers buy the BTC ETF and sell CME BTC futures contracts against it. I don't think the new ETFs will get rid of carry trade assets from our model, since the carry trade doesn't make money for non-sane assets. This means that the flow expectation has dropped from $18 billion to $15 billion. Matt just joined the Bankless team to talk about his predictions and plans for cryptocurrencies. There are parts of interviews, and you can subscribe and turn on post notifications to see more movies like this. Okay, we had a bigger idea of what an ETF could do after seeing this. Before these ETFs, the most successful ETF of all time made $5 billion in its first year. The Bitcoin ETFs, on the other hand, have already made $15 billion in 6 months. I believe it changed how effective this could be. What Alex said makes sense to me. There was a lot of desire from stores. I think a lot of people want a retirement account. Also, let's be honest, crypto works great there. It's an investment for the long run and could have very high gains that can be kept out of taxes. I think you saw a lot of flows into that room. That's 3 big boxes to tick. In other words, it taught us that this is a successful place and showed us how much more successful it could be. Today, it has also made a group of typical investors who hold crypto in a brokerage account. A lot of those people are going to add ETH to their Bitcoin ETF exposure too. That seems right. Based on what I know about that audience, demand from that area is already picking up speed. We're getting more and more wins from that area. I'm sure Alex is getting more and more wins from that area. And as we already said, we plan to open up big new markets at banks like Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and UBS. I would also click on that $40 trillion number. We're seeing an average of about 2.5%, or $40 trillion, put away each year. It's $1 trillion. Our work is worth $15 billion. It's not important. There are a lot of huge positive factors supporting crypto right now, and I think they will push prices to new all-time highs as the year ends. I don't know what the flows will be in the second half of the year, but I think they will speed up as those account platforms come online. I should also say that I think 2025 flows will be higher than 2024 flows. And I think we'll build, every year for a few years. That's because of 2 things. For one, these wealth platforms are coming on board, which lets institutional cash flow. And the other, to go back to the numbers, gold ETFs are the most similar to this new Bitcoin ETF. They had a huge amount of success right away. At that time, they were the best performing ETFs ever. It rained more in year 2 than in year 1. Year 3 was better than year 2. Year 4 was better than year 3. All the way up to year 7. It takes more than 1 year for new asset groups to take off. I do believe that rates will speed up in 25 and later years. Matt thinks that ETFs will do very well in the next 12 to 18 months. But he tells people not to get too excited in the first few months after start. It's also important to him that the crypto bull market stays strong until 2025. Even though Bitcoin and Ethereum prices dropped below $4,000 and $3,000 on Friday, Matt still has a lot of hope for the future of crypto assets and the current bull market. A few tweets ago, Matt said that there are some short-term factors that will probably make prices go down, but there are even more long-term factors that will make prices go up. The tweet says, "We have several short-term negative headwinds that won't be coming back. Things like ETF flows, the DC shift winning in court, better infrastructure, and the Lindy effect all help us in the long run." Prices are going down, though, because of short-term factors that don't happen very often. With these hopes for Ethereum ETFs, it's a good time to invest for the long run. Matt believes the value of the base assets will rise significantly. Before the ETF goes public, he thinks that ETH will hit new all-time highs. Here are some more interview clips. Yes, it could be the bottom of the first, and the home team is coming up. So I think the most anxious time for me is at launch, because I have a big question about how fast the money leaves ETH, and whether there are big net losses that might even be bigger than net inflows for a short time. That might not happen. That didn't happen with Bitcoin, but I think people are starting to understand that trade is going to happen, so they're going to make that switch. So it's possible that they speed up the process of making that. That's right. There are also two kinds of buyers, right? Some buyers want to hold on to ETH, and it's likely that they will sell the more expensive product and switch to Bitwise and Galaxy products. There are also people who bought ETH because it's selling below its net asset value just to play the arbitrage trade. They're taking a risk and are waiting for the price to go away if there is a conversion. Once that happens, they'll get out of the ETH space. What you need to worry about is whether those people leave quickly enough for new buyers to come in. Because of this, I believe that many things could happen in the weeks leading up to start. What I think will happen in the few weeks before start is not something I am very sure about. When months 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 come around, I think this flood of money will be felt. I think that net flows could easily reach 5 or 6 billion by the end of the year. From there, I think they could go up even more in 2025. First, I would say that Bitcoin dropped after it was released for a few weeks. It then rose rapidly to new all-time highs. Once more, I don't really. If I had to do a base case study, I don't think that will happen. I think there will be enough new investors to make up for it. But I think investors should know that the few weeks before the start will be very interesting with a lot of changes. In the long run, $15 billion will be put into these ETFs, which will make them reach new all-time highs. I think that will happen very quickly. But you need to keep the long story separate from the short one. I think it's a little too cautious because I think the market is underestimating how strong the tailwinds are behind Ethereum. To explain this, I would talk about how the regulatory environment is changing in Washington and what that means for the ecosystem, as well as the effects of the Dengun upgrade and what they mean for the ecosystem. I just believe that the Ethereum community is being pushed forward by huge forces. If those things lead to real organic growth in the space over the next 12 to 18 months, which I think they will,